Good evening, people of God. This is Dr. DeWanda Owens coming on to try to finish up this series that's been going on this week about narcissism and the narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissism is a personality disorder that is characterized by an extreme level of self-involvement that can cause people to disregard the needs of others. People with narcissistic personality disorder, which is NPD, may have the following traits. I was able to get to some of them on my prior lives, but this just didn't seem like 2 to 3 5-minute snippets or nuggets was going to do it, so I can move on to the next alphabet. So, people with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, may have the following traits. The number one trait is inflated sense of self-importance. That's a big one. People with NPD seem to think that they are more important than anybody in the world. Anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is, what it's about, what comes up, what conversation piece it is. It just doesn't matter. They believe that they are superior, far more important. They believe that what their opinion is far more important than anybody's opinion. They believe that anything they think and the way they think is the only way that things should be considered. The narcissistic or NPD personality disorder, when it talks about the inflated sense of self-importance, they believe all around they're more important. Anything connected to them is more important. Anything that can come up, any conversation, anything is more important. And to the point where they may even feel like they're entitled to special treatment and privileges, and expect to be recognized as superior without any accomplishments, just because of who they are, just because they exist. They believe that they should be recognized as superior. They believe that when they walk in a room, they are the ones. It doesn't matter if they're the speaker of the hour. They are the ones that are more important. If it's a wedding that you go to, usually the bride and the groom are the centerpiece of a wedding. Well, if you have a narcissistic personality, when you go to a wedding, you want to dress better than the bride, dress better than the groom, be seen as better. You're more important. More important. So, as I said before, the inflated sense of self-importance is the number one key. They feel they are entitled to special treatment and special privileges. And as I talked about it on yesterday, many a times it goes on in families. And the narcissistic way of thinking sometimes is embedded in the family by the way the parents or whoever was doing the rearing reared the children up. You know how you can have 2 children, but you cater to one, and that one that you cater to grows up with a narcissistic way of thinking because the way you cater to them, the way you allowed them to be. I hear people say all the time, because they were darker than a brown paper bag, they were not considered anything. Anything lighter than that, they were considered. That's a narcissistic trait that's embedded into people from a youth. And when I talk about the narcissistic trait, I want to talk about the opposite. So when we're brought up in a home and we're reared in a home where the narcissistic traits and behaviors are being displayed, the individual that's not getting the favor, not getting the to be treated as if they are important, that if they are anybody, they take an end of low self-esteem. So the narcissistic trait gets to the person that is treated with superiority. And the individual that's not treated with superiority develops low self-esteem. And it's a form of abuse. We may think that well, I wasn't abused. My parents made sure I had what I needed to eat. They made sure I had what I needed to drink. They made sure I had clothes. They didn't mistreat me. I just wasn't the favorite. And that's the mindset of people. That's the mindset of people. Because you can have two children, even though each child genetically needs something different from you, because they are different individuals. But biologically, you don't treat one better than the other. There's a difference in catering to genetically what somebody needs than biologically mistreating one over the other. Because the one that you put up superior comes up and begins to have a narcissistic demeanor over the one that you inferiorized. And so there becomes some low self-esteem. I know I'm not the only person that knows people that develop low self-esteem. And when you sit down and talk to them, they developed all of this because of their rearing. They developed it because of how they were treated in the home. And then you sit down with people who you know have this narcissistic personality trait going on, and they'll tell you they was always the prize in the family. They was always the chosen one. Everybody always wanted them. Everybody always catered to them. And therefore, you have these two personality traits. And most of the time, it's in siblings. And it makes it hard for siblings to grow up and have a conducive sibling relationship. Because the one that has been placed up on the pedestal continues even into adulthood, wanting the one that has not been placed up on a pedestal to continue to see them as superior. And see, sometimes when we get into a place of adulthood, we realize that I don't care how we were reared, our siblings are no better than we are. And then we wake up. And then we battle with this low self-esteem, and then we tear that wall down, and we no longer have a low self-esteem, and we stand up for ourselves. And the ones that had been catered to all these years, who carry this narcissistic personality trait, they act as if you have mistreated them. They act as if you have left them and you don't love them because you have taken them off of that pedestal. You have dethroned them, whether they be a king or a queen in their mind. Once you dethrone them, they're hurt. And sometimes they suffer from that hurt to the point where they deal with unforgiveness. They're unable to forgive people because those people didn't really mistreat them, but they see it as mistreatment because they're not treated as important. They're not treated as superior anymore. I'm talking about the narcissistic trait tonight, and where it starts at. A lot of the traits that's in the narcissistic personality is imparted. How a child is reared, what they were told. You know, let me just give it to you. If you have 2 or 3 children in a family, whichever one is considered the chosen one, that's the one that you'll find out. And I know I'm right about it. I've done my research. You go to that one, and that one always feels like they're more superior to the other ones. It doesn't mean they're the oldest. Doesn't mean they're the best looking one. Doesn't mean they're the smartest one. Doesn't mean that they've done better by their parents. Doesn't mean that they've reared their children better. Doesn't mean anything that they've done better. They just feel like that because they have a delusional sense of superiority. So that's the first trait. We talked about inflated sense of self-importance. They may feel entitled to special treatment and privileges and expect to be recognized as superior even without accomplishments. All they have to do is walk in a room. And what, you didn't recognize me? And you may say, well, when I walked in, I said, hello, how are you? How are you all? No, they want you to call their name because they're superior, remember? You can say hello, everybody, and it's good for everybody in the room. But somebody with a narcissistic personality, if you don't call their name, it's not good enough. And I know you know somebody like that. And so the number one trait is the desire for attention and admiration. The narcissistic personality trait, they frequently seek compliments and positive feedback to boost up their self-esteem, and may manipulate others to create impressions that will gain them admiration. So they may do something as simple as sing a song in church. And you may have a simple conversation. Church was good. Well, how did you like that song? That song was good. And there it is. They say the song I sung was this and this and that. And the Holy Spirit didn't come in until I sung that song. That's a narcissistic trait. If you say church was good, the service was good, why would a narcissistic personality person pick out what they did as the thing that made the service good? They disregard the whole entire service. What made that service so good was the fact that they sung a song. That's the narcissistic personality trait. They seek compliments. They ask you about what they do. They seek for you to give them accolades. They seek for you to say kind words so that they can build up their self-esteem. And so we were talking about the first trait of the narcissistic personality was the lack of empathy and willingness to recognize and identify with other people's feelings and needs. And so they want you to, they have this desire to be admired, the desire to be the center of attention. And not only that, they are preoccupied with fantasies. They have this delusional mindset. Everything that they honestly believe about themselves, about how well, why they see themselves so high, is just their delusion. Nobody else can see it that way or has to see it that way. It doesn't matter. It's their delusion. They may frequently ask you to give them feedback. Well, what'd you say? And the moment you say something good, they build on it. They build on it. They go to spreading it to people. Well, I talked to so-and-so and so, and they said I did good, and I really sung that song. And I told them, this is a false sense of humility right here that comes up. And I just told them, I was just doing what the Lord say do. I was just letting the Lord use me. But you sought out this compliment. You seek out for someone to speak well about you. And then you create this false sense of humility. When in reality, you're not humble at all. You're self-centered, self-seeking, self-promoting, self-elevating. All of it is about oneself, the narcissistic personality disorder. So they become preoccupied with fantasies. They daydream about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. Anything about life. They daydream about it, and they create a fantasy in their mind. They create a fantasy in their mind. They create a fantasy in their mind, and they hold to it because they actually believe it. They exploit others. How do they exploit others? They may take advantage of others to achieve their own ends, their own success. It's all about them. They'll take advantage of you, throw you under the bus to get to where they need to be. They'll set you up and make you think they're with you, long as they can tag along to get to where you're going. And when they get to where you're going, that narcissistic personality will push you to the back. It's all about me. That narcissistic personality will pretend to befriend you, to get close to other people. Once they befriend you and get close to other people, they no longer need you anymore. It's all about them and that person they want to be friends with. You move out the way. That's the narcissistic personality trait. They have behaviors associated with NPD. They just think that everything is naturally about them. So they have a fear of being vulnerable. They avoid being vulnerable. They don't want to be vulnerable to anything and anybody. They can't just be open and honest. You can be their boss, but because of their narcissistic personality, they will befriend you so that they can call you friend and address you as friend rather than address you as their superior. They will never let you be superior to them in any way. You'll be brother and sister first before you be pastor. You'll be brother and sister first before you be apostle. You'll be brother and sister first before you be overseer. That's the narcissistic personality trait. It is a false sense of humility, and it will alter any environment, any situation, any condition to not have to be vulnerable and submit to anything that's superior or anybody that's superior. A narcissistic person rarely, genuinely will give the Holy Ghost his credit. They want the glory. They will verbally say it. That's a false sense of humility. I'm talking about really letting the Holy Ghost have his way and saying to God be the glory and meaning it. Because when you know that to God be the glory, you're not seeking for anybody to tell you how well you did. Because if you did it to the glory of God, and you truly did it to the glory of God, God gets the glory, and you understand that, and nobody has to give you accolades. You have to ask nobody, how did I do? How well did I sing? You catch people that every time they have to stand behind the pulpit or get the mic, and all they got to say about the service is how well they did. Red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, personality, narcissistic personality trait. So the narcissistic personality, hypersensitivity to criticism, rejection, or failure. They so sensitive. They say they're humble enough to be corrected, but the moment you correct them, how dare you correct me? Even though they have given a false sense of humility that they submit to you, in reality they don't. They've always thought they were superior over you. Not just in church, not just in ministry. We have this in our families. We have this among friends. We have this among colleagues. You can work with people all your life, and they will appear to be humble. But the moment you get promoted above them, that narcissistic personality comes out. How dare you think that you're better than me? They will reverse it and say, because you got promoted, now you're different. You've changed. You think you're better than me. When in reality, they have a narcissistic personality trait that's in operation, and they can't stand to be your superior. To be your inferior, they want to be your superior. So, severe depression related to rejection or failure. They get depressed to the point where some will quit a job rather than answer to you. Some people will leave a ministry rather than answer to you. Some people will not come to a family function if it's all about somebody else. If they can't be the spotlight and the highlight, they're not in. If they can't lead the project, they're not in. If you can't accept their feedback and do it how they want it done, they're not in. They're not in. Anger or rage when criticized or rejected, faking humility. We talked about that. Avoiding situations where failure is likely. If there's any kind of way that they're going to get exposed, that they are not who they say they are, they don't know what they say they know, they didn't come from where they say they came from, if there's any type of increment of them getting truly exposed, the narcissistic personality trait is not in. They would rather leave, back up, than get exposed. So I've been trying to get this narcissistic personality trait out to the people of God all week. And so I wanted to come on and let you know that narcissism is a personality disorder. And most of the time, it starts from a young child. Again, you can have 2 children in the home, but if one is treated better than the other one, that's what happens. They develop this thing in their mind that they're better. They love me more. My parents are more proud of me. My parents, I made my parents more proud. I made the family name. Because of my children, this, and because of me, this. It's all about them. I raised my children better. My children are going to be better because they went to the better schools. I got the better job. It's a competition, and they compete with other people in their minds. And the people that they compete with are not even competing with them. The narcissistic personality trait competes. It's always on the run. It's always moving, always on the run. I'm not sure if you know anybody that deals with the narcissistic personality trait, or if you know anybody that has had to deal with a person, be in a relationship with a person, live with a person, deal with a person with a narcissistic personality trait. It's tough. It's tough because whatever you do, they're never satisfied. Whatever you say, if it's not about them, it's not good and it's not right. And once they develop that narcissistic personality trait and they get used to being treated as superior, it's hard for them to see themselves in reality. It's hard for them to see themselves in reality of who they truly are. They have a false sense of humility. They have a false sense of reality. They deal with a delusional personality trait. So, I got this out. Tomorrow I'll deal with OCD because I needed to go on to the next letter of the alphabet. I pray that this has helped someone. I pray that if you are one that deals with that, or if you are one that has been abused by that, and you have become withdrawn, and you've been psychologically put into a place of a prison or a jail to where you have low self-esteem, I pray over your life tonight that you will come out, because there is not one greater than the other. God made us all, and he made us all in his own likeness and his own image. Nobody is greater than you. He is the only true and living God. We bow down to him and him alone. We worship him and him only. And we should never have to fathom in our mind and our thoughts that we have to bow down to somebody or anything or anybody to have them in our lives. And those who deal with the narcissistic personality trait, you almost have to bow down to them to get along with them. But I encourage you to ask them, encourage them to seek help. And if you are one that has dealt with that on the other side, dealt with that abuse, and you've dealt with low self-esteem because of it. I speak life and life more abundantly. You are free tonight. No longer bound. No chains to hold you down. I don't care if mom and them treated them better. And I don't care if they still think they're entitled. Take them out of the kingship and the queenship and put God there. Because Jesus Christ is sitting on the right hand of the Father, interceding for us even now. And heaven is backing you up. Just have the strength to stand. Because when you deal with individuals with that narcissistic personality, they will help you to lose yourself. You forget who you really are. You have to work hard at identifying who you really are. Because they tear down your psychological mindset. They will have you to the point where you think that it is you. Well, is it me? When in reality, it's them. I pray that this has blessed you. I pray that you be encouraged. And I pray that you always, always seek help while help may be found. God bless.